Said.
And very quickly on settler violence. Now, if there are settlers who committed violence that have U.S. citizenship, would you be able to demand that they be extradited?
That's something a question you'd have to put to the Department of Justice side.
Okay, well, but as far as, let's say, whatever tradition and so on,
it's a Department of Justice question, not a State Department question.
All right. Okay, I'll move on. Now, you also said something about UNRWA. We talked about UNRWA. Well, it seems that the Israelis are gunning after other agencies like OCHA and others and so on. And they probably target them much like they target UNRWA. So it seems that they
what
are.
I'm not questioning. I've missed whatever report you're referring to.
All right. Well, OCHA is basically the spokesman for OCHA.
Yeah, I know who they are, but I don't know what report of Israeli targeting you're referring to.
But it seems that it's not only UNRWA, but almost any other agency that could possibly, provide the Palestinians with what UNRWA was providing is being targeted. So it's not just one thing. Do you believe?
Well, hold on. Before you go to the question,
right.
Is there a specific instance you want to reference that I can respond to?
Yes, I mean, just most recently, they disallowed the representative of OCHA from visiting the West Bank and other places. So it's, that's what they keep saying. They say OCHA is also meddling in their affairs and so on. They are giving cover to Palestinian activists and all kinds of things. My question is the following. Within the 90 days, they have a 90 days before implementing the law against UNRWA. Would the United States lean on Israel to rescind its decision?
Of course we want them to see them rescind the decision. We wanted them to not pass it in the first place. Now, right. I don't really have any illusions if you look at the politics of the Knesset that that's a likely step that they're going to take. If you look at the number of votes by which it passed, but we have great concerns about the passage of the legislation and its implementation.
Okay, but the U.S. does not have any leverage to impose on Israel or to say, look, if you do this, we will do this.
We may, I know you were here last week and hold on and got my answers to the question about this. Right. Where I pointed out that in the Secretary's letter, we made clear that there are potential legal and policy implications for the implementation of this legislation.
We're talking about UNRWA because UNRWA has been there for the better part of this conflict, all throughout. And in fact, it was a Western thing. It was, the Americans and the Europeans that said we should have this organization. We know that probably 170 countries or even more, 180 countries support UNRWA. So you're telling me that Israel basically can flaunt the whole world and say, we'll do whatever we want because we have the backing of the United States?
No, Israel can make decisions that any sovereign country can make, and the United States can do the same, as can other countries.
Okay, let me just ask you a couple more questions on the hospital situation. There was extensive reporting yesterday by Associated Press on the fact that Israeli claims about the hospitals, about many of the hospitals, that they were actually a place where fighters hid and so on, turned out to be false. So hasn't the time come for the United States to say, hospitals, that's it, don't bomb the hospitals, don't do this to the hospitals, allow some, a modicum of medical care to these Palestinians that need it?
We absolutely do not want to see hospitals targeted.
Right.
We also don't want to see Hamas take refuge inside hospitals. And I will tell you, you have seen us release our own intelligence where we've said that we have seen evidence, at least in one hospital, where Hamas was hiding underneath a hospital and was deploying its fighters underneath a hospital. So absolutely we want to see hospitals protected, and one of the ways to ensure they are protected would be for Hamas to stop taking refuge inside them.
All right, but this is a recurring story. I mean, Israel could claim forever that there are Hamas fighters.
I'm not talking, so just to be clear, I'm not talking about an Israeli claim. We ourselves have seen evidence of Hamas building tunnels under hospitals and hiding inside hospitals.
Right. So we saw this with the Shifa hospital, and it was an ancient tunnel, but that's not the point.
That is not our assessment, Said.
Okay, that's fine. But I'm saying that has been bombed and bombed.
I'm glad you think it's fine.
Again.
I'm telling you that was our assessment as a factual matter.
But this has been, this was bombed and bombed and bombed again. I mean, this could continue. It's like deja vu all over again.
Which is why we are trying to end the war.
Okay.
And get to lasting peace and security and stability for Israelis and Palestinians.
Okay, that takes me to my last question. The Israelis are saying that clearing northern Gaza of Hamas fighters will take another 6 months. Does that mean that this war will go on for another 6 months, and you will actually support
I
that?
cannot make any predictions about how this war will proceed, but I can tell you what we are trying to bring about, Saeed, which is an end to the war as soon as possible.
Mr. Matt, last 2 years, in 25 years, I've skipped journalism only for a year and a half when I was in Virginia Hospital Center. So when I came, then I started, and you have been here since most of the time here. Last week, my 6-year-old son also came here to ask you a question. Unfortunately, he was taken out. Other journalist children have been allowed. Last week, my question is, last week, you had the audacity to say that your administration had nothing to do with the removal of Imran Khan, while you had told my friend, again my friend Matt, the word close-ish about the removal of Imran Khan.
No, that is not an accurate representation
You
of what
had
I said.
that we had told Imran Khan that your visit to Russia was a disliking, and we.
I should leave it alone, but you're not right.
Okay. Second one. Yesterday, a Supreme Court judge, Supreme Court attorney got recovered after a month of abduction in Pakistan. After a month, Supreme Court attorney. Is that not human rights violations that I personally have been mentioning to you since last 2 years, and you have not once even said to me that Jalil.
Jalil, I'm not aware of that report, so I can't comment on it.
But human rights violations I have not brought into your notice on multiple parliamentarians abducted, senators abducted, lawyers abducted.
Do you have a question, Jalil?
You do not acknowledge that in 2 years you have completely ignored these things. And today is the last day before your election. I want to show this picture to you how I feel as a journalist.
All right.
In 2 years, the way
Go
you
ahead,
have treated
Go
me
ahead.
and Kareem.
Go ahead, Behind. If you have a question. You know what? This is we have Jalil. This is question time, not argument time in the briefing room. Go ahead, Behind you. Go ahead. And I appreciate journalists that show up with questions, not extended arguments. Go ahead.
I want to tell you the last day of the election.
You can go ahead with your question.
Journalism, please.
Go ahead with your question. I'm going to respect journalism by calling on a journalist in the room.
Yes, I will shut up.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Matt. You know that Mr. Smotrich and Ben Gvir, they are both crucial members in the government of Israel, and one of them is explicitly encourage expanding settlement in West Bank, and the other one explicitly and practically arming the settlers in the West Bank. Last Wednesday, you rejected that Palestinian has a right to defend themselves against these settlers, and you said that it's a matter of law enforcement. Can you give me in this context, can you give me more clarification or more explanation what type of law enforcement that can encounter these expanding settlements and encountering these settlers who burning Palestinian homes, burning, like happened yesterday, Palestinian cars, steal their lands. So it's kind of some game. As you supposedly a fair mediator between Palestinian and Israeli, what is your vision for moving this situation, specifically the government itself, encouraging these settlers to expand the settlement?
Yeah, so when it comes to who is responsible for law enforcement operations, it depends in what area of the West Bank it is. I think as you well know, in Area A, the Palestinian Authority has principal responsibility for law enforcement operations, and in Area C, it is the government of Israel. And so when you heard the opening remarks at this briefing today, I made clear that relevant authorities, whether it be in Area A, whether it be in Area C, whether it be anywhere, need to respond to acts of violence, no matter the perpetrator and no matter the victim. Now, when it comes to crack down on settler violence and to hold settlers accountable for that violence. And we have also made clear that if we do not see sufficient action from the government of Israel, we will impose our own actions, as we have on more than 24 occasions already this year.
Okay, second question on UNRWA, last question on UNRWA. Why USA doesn't voluntarily to take action to send teams or organization or something, because as Mr. Saeed said, UNRWA is the most strong and well known about their job, and Israel, it seems not cooperate or not helping for distributing aid and something like that. Why USA doesn't take an action or doing any practical rules in terms of distributing this aid, specifically in Northern Gaza, because it's like some like expertise says it's like kind of fame or kind of like starving. So why USA doesn't play a real action?
We have taken significant action to get humanitarian assistance into Gaza. Now, when it comes to that last mile, if you will, the distribution role, we don't have U.S. Government agencies on the ground implementing aid delivery, but we are facilitating a great amount of aid making its way to Gaza. In fact, the United States is the largest donor of humanitarian assistance to the Palestinian people. And we fund a number of the UN agencies who then do that last mile delivery inside Gaza, and we'll continue to do so.
But you don't fund UNRWA anymore.
Not UNRWA, but we fund other agencies, what I was referring to.